Hello guys, Ancient Gameplays, I'm Fabio Pisco and welcome to my channel. And by the way, let me just put on my glasses. As for today's video, we have the tutorial of how to overclock and undervolt the RX 9070, but this time the non-XT card. We had the previous tutorial on the 9070 XT, and if you know my channel, I have several tutorials. I have tutorials for the 7900 XTX, the 7900 XT, 7800 XT, 7700 XT. I believe that I have tutorials for basically every single RDNA 3 card, almost every single RDNA 2 one. Also tutorials for the Nvidia cards like the RTX 4060, and I'm gonna do another one for the RTX 5080 that gains a lot from overclocking in several titles, but that's for another video. And today we have the RX 9070 non-XT. In this case, the Asus stuff model that you can see on the unboxing video that I made. Now, before going into the undervolting and overclocking tutorial per se, I just want to clarify some doubts. First one is, will this damage your GPU? No, this won't be damaging your GPU. We at most are reducing the voltage, and generally reducing the voltage will do no harm to your GPU. It will generally actually increase the GPU's lifespan since it is running a lower voltage. Usually, okay? Secondly, will this void your warranty? Well, technically, yes, but there's no way that they're gonna know that you overclocked at all unless you're making videos like I do. Now just make sure that you're running a decent PSU, at least a decent PSU, because some people do have time bombs instead of PSUs, and that's why they end up having their system fried. You may have black screens, you may have green screens, you may have even blue screens due to your PSU not being able to deliver enough power to the GPU. And even if your PSU says like 650 watts, if your PSU is from a really shitty brand, it might happen that the 650 watts will never be achieved. And let's say that you're having a 550 watts PSU and you're running one of these cards alongside another things in your system, the PSU might not be able to handle the power peaks. So even if your PSU has enough power room, let's say that, it won't be able to support the power peaks because the rails are not powerful enough, and that's why the PSU is one of the most important parts in your computer. If you're having issues again, black screens, blue screens and so on, it might be due to the PSU as well. But let's now finally go to the overclocking part, or maybe the sponsor part. Today's video sponsor is GVG Mall, bringing you lots of software deals like Windows 10, Windows 11, Office 2019 or 2021 with a new Windows 11 design, and for all of these you can use my SKG discount code for 30% off, getting a Windows 11 serial key for $22 and a Windows 10 one for only $15. Then use the key on your Windows settings and you'll have an activated system. But let's now finally go to the overclocking part. In this case, we're gonna use the AMD software because why not? I mean, you can use MS Afterburner if you're not using the Radeon software, but generally, and especially for the RX 9000 series, it is much better to use the AMD software. So what you have to do is just right-click on your desktop, the AMD Software ADRENALIN Edition link will appear, you open it, then you have several tabs: Home, AI, Gaming, Record and Stream, Performance and Smart Technology, and the one that you want to open is the Performance tab. Open it, then you have 3 sub-tabs: the Metrics, Tuning and Settings, and the one you want is the Tuning. Open it as well, and in my case I have the 7800X 3D showing. It might show your CPU or not depending on your system, on your combo, on your chipset driver, so on, doesn't really matter. Now, on the RX 9000 series, things changed a bit. In terms, for example, of the presets, instead of having the overclocking VRAM, overclocking core, overclocking so on, now we have only favor efficiency and favor performance. As soon as we go to favor performance, it will do kind of a custom tuning to favor the performance, maximum performance of the GPU. It will increase, as it says, it will increase power consumption and /or fan noise. Then you have favor efficiency, which will improve the GPU power efficiency, and then you have the custom mode, which is the one that we want to use. And on top of these two that we have, so more power draw, better performance, lower power draw, slower performance or worse performance, we also have automatic tuning, which now only overclocks the GPU. While in previous generations like RDNA 3, RX 7000 series, we have overclocking VRAM and overclocking GPU core on separate tabs, or at least on separate buttons. And now we have only one overclock GPU button, so things changed a bit. Now, first thing that you want to do, as always, is go to all the menus that you have here and just click on these little sliders. Just enable them, enable on the VRAM as well, enable on the power, enable on the fan tuning. Now the first thing that you want to do, and I always say this in my videos, is the power tuning. It is the most important setting that you need to tweak. It's the best option and the most important option. This model in specific only allows for 10% more power limit, which is the Asus stuff. Sadly, I would like 15-20% more power without needing to mod the BIOS. So at stock the card consumes up to 240 watts, 240 watts, and overclocked it goes up to 264 watts, more or less, something like that. So 260, 265, around that, which is completely fine. And by the way, if you're looking at the total board power of 53 watts, don't worry at all. It is happening because I'm recording, and I'm recording at 4K 60 FPS, and that's why we see a total board power of 50 watts. In general, it should be like 10-15 watts tops, and in full idle it should be like 6 watts, something like that. So don't worry about the idle power draw. This is happening because I'm recording, and again I'm using a 4K 138 Hz monitor, and it is completely fine without recording. Again, if you want to overclock, just raise the power limit to the maximum and you'll be fine. That's what you do. If you want to undervolt, you also can start by limiting the power draw. For example, this card doesn't really consume that much power, so 260 something watts tops. So I usually just overclock it to the max. Overclock plus undervolt. We'll get there as well. So I use power limit to the maximum. Now, if you really want to reduce that power to, let's say, 220 watts, which is possible, sometimes even less than that, but let's say 220 watts, you go to around minus 15%, and you're golden around 220, 230 watts, and you can go below that. And if you undervolt alongside the minus 15 power limit, you'll be able to get close to stock performance, sometimes really close to stock performance, while drawing way less power. But again, overclocking, power limit to the maximum. Again, this card doesn't really consume much power. As for the fan tuning, well, the maximum fan speed for this model is 100%, and this is completely not needed because the card is very, very cool. I also saw the VRAM temperatures, I also saw the junction temperatures, and everything was fine. I even saw the capacitor temperatures, and everything was fine, so there's absolutely no need to go to 100%, and I found that in my model, in order to still have good temperatures and have lower noise levels, and I found that Asus stuff cards do this all the time. It is exactly the same for my 7900 XT. I just go to like 35%, and again, this card is very cool, and it is more than enough. GPU temperatures will be in the 50s, GPU hotspot will be in the 70s, and even the memory temperatures and so on will be around 78, 79, which is again completely fine, no worries. So 35 for me, more than enough. Then we go to the GPU tuning. GPU tuning is one of the things, or the thing that changed the most again, and we have maximum frequency offset, like I told you before, and the voltage offset. On the previous generation cards, like the RX 6000 and 7000, especially the 7000 cards, the voltage was already kind of an offset. So let's say that you had kind of several power tables or several power limits, several power states, yes, several power states, and each power state kind of had a base voltage. And if you were within that power state, the base voltage would be that one. And if you decrease the slider, the base voltage would still be that one, but then it would apply kind of an offset. So a lower voltage on the slider would mean a lower voltage overall, and a higher voltage on the slider would mean a higher voltage overall. And that's why now on the 9000 series we don't really have anything related to the base voltage. We only have a voltage offset. So in this case, the lower the voltage offset that you select or that you are able to do, the lower the power draw will be in theory, or the higher the card will boost. So inside the same power draw, if you undervolt a lot, means that you are consuming less power. And if you are consuming less power, it means that the card can boost to a higher frequency inside that same power roof. I believe that I'm explaining myself pretty well. So you have a power roof and you are running this voltage to this power roof. As soon as you undervolt, you will consume less power. meaning that the card can increase the clocks to reach that power again and increase the performance overall in that same power too. So undervolting is very important for most AMD cards, but especially for these 9000 series ones. So let's put this back to 0. As for the maximum frequency offset, it should be mostly for the models that aren't power restricted. For example, what I found out is that the maximum frequency offset doesn't really do anything for me. Really, I tried it, I lowered it, I increased it, and it just doesn't make anything. Usually the card, for example, will boost to around 2.6, from 2.6 to 2.9 depending on the title at stock. As soon as I go here and just increase the power limit from 0 to 10%, usually the card will be in between 2.8 to 3.1 GHz, depending again on the game engine, on the resolution, on the settings, if you are CPU bottlenecked or not, it kind of depends. But generally, yes, it will get around 200 MHz more of boost just by increasing the power limit without messing this. So I tried the maximum frequency offset. I tried the minimum frequency offset for both cards, for the 9070 XT and the normal 9070, and I found no differences whatsoever. I mean, literally, no differences. I raise the maximum frequency offset, the boost clock will be the same. I kind of decrease it, it will be the same. So unless you're running, I believe that unless you're running some super high-end models, like those ones that have 3 8-pin connectors and can increase the power draw, for example, to way higher values, unless you're running one of those cards, I believe that the maximum frequency offset is just a no-go. You can just leave it on 0, because the maximum frequency offset, I believe that it works only when the frequency is kind of capped. Imagine that your 9070 can go up to 400 watts. But on BIOS, the GPU core will only be able to go up to 3.2 GHz. But at 3.2 GHz in that scenario, you're just running, let's say, 300 watts. So you have 100 watts more of power room, but the card won't boost more because the clock just that's kind of the clock roof. So that in that scenario where you still have power room to go, but the clock just won't go higher, there is when you want to use the maximum frequency offset to, let's say, for example, 50, 100, till you reach your maximum power roof. In this scenario, because, let's say, an imaginary scenario where you would have way more power to use, but the card wasn't boosting high enough. For 90% or 95% plus of people, the maximum frequency offset is just, a no-go. Just leave it on 0 and it won't really bother. Now, the voltage offset, on the other hand, is very important. And I'll explain to you again. Imagine that you have 240 watts here and you have the stock voltage here. Okay? So, 240 watts, stock power draw, stock voltage. Inside that same power room, even if you don't increase the power limit, as soon as you just go here to the voltage offset and decrease the voltage, if we didn't mess around with the clocks, you would have lower power draw, meaning that the voltage would decrease, so you would have lower power draw as well, and you'll have this power room here. Now, what the card does automatically is that as soon as you decrease the voltage, instead of decreasing the power draw as well, it will automatically increase the frequency to give you more performance. So as soon as you undervolt, the card will automatically increase clocks, giving you more performance again automatically, and the same goes for the power tuning. As soon as you increase the power levels, it will increase the clocks, giving you more power. So I believe that you figured it out. Again, what we want to do is increase the power and at the same time undervolt the card in order to have higher clocks from the higher power limit and even higher clocks from the undervolting as well. So it's a win-win situation. As for the values that you put here, well, my 9070 XT wasn't really that great, and the maximum that I could go was around -40. In some games it would be okay with -60, in others with -70, but as soon as I would go to some other games, -40 would be the way to go. Otherwise I would be crashing in, let's say, half an hour, 25 minutes. I would be crashing, the game would just quit, I would be having a black screen, blue screen, it depended, but just not safe enough. This card, this 9070 model that I have can actually, can actually undervolt a bit further. So I started with -100 because I just wanted to test. That's the method that I use, and then I test extensively, and that's why I took some more time to make this video as well, because I wanted to test the card more extensively. And at -100 it was fine most times in most games, but not in all. So I found that my card is actually a better sample than my XT card, and I was able to use -80 in every single scenario, and it will work and it won't crash again. -80, and the undervolting capabilities are depending on the luck of the draw. You can buy 10 different cards, 10 different 9070 cards, the same model and so on, and those same 10 cards will be all different. One might be able to do -80, another one might be able to do -100 or -120, and the other one might be able to just do like -30. And some others might be able to not even undervolt, so it has to do with the luck of the draw. Usually I would start with -40. I believe that -40 would be more than enough. Then you go, apply changes, and then you just go to several games that you play. If you play, let's say 1 hour, 2 hours, and the game crashes, you know that you can't really overclock this much, or in this case undervolt as much. You need to go -30, and then you play again. If it still crashes, you go to -20, and so on, so on, so on. But if you start at -40 and it doesn't crash, well, try for example -60, and then you go apply. If it doesn't crash at -60, then increase it again to -70 or -80. You play for several hours again. If it doesn't crash, then just keep doing it. Decrease to -100, decrease to -120, decrease to -140, and so on till your card crashes. If it crashes at -140, reduce it to -130. Try some more games, try some more hours. If it still crashes at 130, then go back to 120, and so on, so on, so on. And by the way, you can do these profiles on a per game basis. We are doing the kind of the global tuning, but if you want to go, you can select an overclocking per game. That also works because there are some games where you can undervolt way further, and that might help with the performance as well. But generally, I wouldn't really bother. Again, -80 is what I want, maximum frequency to 0. And the lower you go here, the lower power draw you will have, and the higher the clocks will be, making the performance better. But you'll see in the end, where I have the comparisons, that the tweaked settings are considerably better, and at like 20 watts more, so it's a win-win situation. And now we finally have the VRAM tuning, which is one of the things that changed less. If we compare, at least in terms of GPU tuning and VRAM tuning basically didn't change at all. And now we only have, as usual, the maximum frequency on the VRAM. And what you want to do is basically just start by going to 2600. And by the way, we have a slight offset on the VRAM. I don't really know why, I don't really know how this happens or why this happens, but we have usually an offset of 14 MHz. I discovered this on RDNA 2 cards, I believe, and it was still applied to the RDNA 3 cards, and it is still applied to the RDNA 4 cards as well. So 12 or 14 MHz, I don't really know why, but if you want that round number of 2600, so basically if you select 2600, it won't appear 2600 on your overlay, because again, it has a 14 MHz offset. So you just go 2614. As soon as you press and you activate 2614, you'll have that round 2600 MHz number. Now, 2600 MHz will be more than fine for almost every single one out there. Unless you're really, really unlucky, it might really happen, but generally, I would say for 99% of people, 2600 is completely safe. Like, I'm not joking, completely safe. You won't have errors, you won't have issues whatsoever, so it is. Even for the lower end binning like my 9070XT, 2600 is completely fine, so it just works. Now, I found that on my 9070, it seems that I do have better binning on both core and VRAM on this card compared to my 9070XT, and I can just easily go to 2700 without any kind of issue. I gamed for so many hours and I had no issues whatsoever. I played basically 30 hours or more of the first Berserker Khazan with my 9070, and it just works fine with these exact settings, -80 on the core and 2714 on the VRAM, and it just works fine. And I can even go higher. I could go up to 2764, basically 2750 MHz in reality, but I mean 50 megahertz just won't do any performance increases, and I mean I prefer a more stable system with 2714, and you will be completely fine. Then you also have the memory timings, and you can select in between the default and fast timings. And yes, the fast timings will generally give you around 1 to 2% more performance, and they can make your system more unstable. If you just go, for example, for an unstable memory, a super unstable memory frequency, your system will immediately crash. But in some scenarios, the VRAM frequency might not be entirely stable, and you might need to, let's say, play 1 or 2 hours in order to have a system crash, while the memory timings will bring you an even more unstable system. So, for example, on my 9070 XT, I cannot go to 2700 without crashing, but I can go to 2600 MHz with fast timings, which will basically deliver me almost the same performance. And the faster timings mean that we have lower timings, meaning that we also have lower latency, meaning of course that the system will perform better overall because we have lower latency. And the same applies for the maximum frequency. So yeah, and by the way, there might be scenarios where you can just go to, let's say, 2800. People that are lucky, you can go to 2800 and it will work. For example, in my card, it also worked, but the performance did not increase. And you need to test this because you might be able to do 2800, but the performance won't be increasing because there will be error correction. Because as soon as you overclock a lot of VRAM, it might create errors, and error correction also takes power. So running at 2700 MHz or 2800 MHz will deliver the same performance because, again, the system and the card needs to correct those errors, and to correct those errors, it needs power, so the performance is basically the same. So in case you have a good binning here, I advise you to go 2700 and then select the fast timings. Generally, I would just go to default 2700, start with 2600 again. If your games don't crash for, let's say, 1 hour, 2 hours, try again and go a bit further, 2664, which is basically 2650 megahertz. Then keep going further again, 2700 megahertz, 2750 megahertz, till it crashes. Let's say that it crashes at 2750 megahertz, then you know you need to go below a bit. So I would go to just 2700 megahertz and call it a day. So this is basically what you have to do. You just increase the power limit, undervolt, don't mess with the maximum frequency offset, again, most people won't need it, and then tweak the VRAM. Pretty simple. Remember that all cards are different, and your card might not be able to do -80, or might be able to do -100 or -120, so it kind of depends. Also, you have my profiles, the settings that I have. As always, you have them with the link in the description, and you can download my profile. Then you just need to go here, export, in this case not export, import profile, select the folder where you downloaded the profile to. In my case, I usually have them on my AMD folder, and then you just load the profile whatever you want and it will work. Or you can just do your own one and then just go export profile again, save it, and then import the profile whenever you want. Now, to really finish the video, I found that the 9000 series in terms of undervolting and power limiting are entirely different from the 7000 series and the 6000 series, because on those cards we actually had a minimum frequency and maximum frequency slider. So I was able to select the minimum and maximum frequency, and I could just leave the power limit at the maximum, and if I wanted to decrease the kind of make a power saving option or decrease the power draw overall, I could just go keep the maximum limit at 10 or 15 or whatever, and just decrease the maximum frequency. For example, on my 7900 XTX, my power saving plan actually limits the maximum frequency of the GPU to 2400 MHz, while the maximum performance plan goes up to 3000. And both keep the power tuning at plus 10% or plus 15%. The only difference is, again, the maximum frequency. In the power saving plan, I use it at 2400 MHz, which will decrease the power draw from, let's say, 350 usually to 300 watts, around that, while the maximum performance plan will increase the frequency up to 3000 MHz, and it will also increase the total board power up to 400. So again, you didn't need to mess with the total board power or the power limit in this case, you just needed to select a maximum frequency, in this case a lower maximum frequency, to make a power saving plan or a power saving profile. With these cards, things are different, and since you don't really have the maximum frequency here and the card will always adjust automatically, even the maximum frequency offset didn't work. I tried the maximum frequency offset to minus 500, which is the minimum that you can get, and the frequency would still be there high in the 2.8, 2.9, 3.1. Yeah, it just wouldn't matter, and that's why I told you that the maximum frequency offset is just a big nope for most people. So what do you really want to do if you want to do an undervolting and power saving profile? You need to go to the power limit and just go, let's say, from 10 or 0 if you are not giving more power at all, to let's say minus 15. So in order to do a power saving profile, you put everything the same as you do for the maximum performance profile, but just decrease the power limits. I tried this on the 9070, I tried this on the 9070XT, and both cards, well, they perform exactly the same. As soon as you decrease the power limit with these exact settings that are stable on the performance profile, it just works better. Let's say that I was running 260 watts at plus 10, I will be running at minus 15 like 220, 230 watts. And you can go even further. And well guys, hope you enjoyed the video and sorry for the long explanation. I really try to explain things in the best way that I can. But again, English is not my main language. I believe that I speak it decently well at least, but it's still not my main language. So I sometimes miss those little words that I need to use in order to explain properly, so sometimes you might not understand what I was explaining, but if you still have any doubts, leave them in the comment section, and as usual, I'll answer as soon as possible or as fast as I can. Thank you very much for watching, and sorry for anything. I try to explain the best way I can, and leave your comment in the comment section. Let me know if you have any doubts, and see you in the next video. Cheers.